Hi, welcome to NDE TV. I'm Peggy Robinson. Today's guest is Frank Milazzo, and he's going to tell us about his near-death experience and some spiritual experiences he's had. And so, Frank, I'm going to let you start wherever you like and take as long as you like, okay?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Peg. My first near-death experience was when I was 7 years old. Uh, Actually, I have no recollection of the near-death experience, but I did die, so I'm sure it had an effect on me, and I'll tell you about that effect. I was eating lunch upstairs. My mother was the type where her house was like she would make lunch for all my friends and everything. 7 years old, all my friends were up there eating lunch. I finished first. I told her I'm going down. She said, "Wait for your friends." I said, "No, I'm going. I want to go play, Mom." So I went down, and I was playing jacks, and the ball went across the street. And where I lived was a two-way street. And a lot of traffic. It was Coney Island. It was a block from Steeplechase. And so it was the summertime. So. Anyway, so I go across the street to pick up the ball. What they said in court was that my heels were against the curb when I bent over. And drunk driver just came and hit me. So he hit me in my head mainly. And he knocked me in the air, and I went down the street about 50 feet. And when I came down, he ran me over this time. He said his foot slipped off the brake onto the gas, but personally, I always thought that he was trying to get away. So when I came down, he ran me over again, and this time I went under the car. He dragged me, and I had besides the head injury, I had all street burns on my face and on my back. Okay, so the ambulance comes, put me in the ambulance. I die on the way to the hospital. I had such severe bleeding. I had such a severe brain injury that I was bleeding on my brain. So I died in the ambulance. And about 5, 6, 7 minutes later, they're working on me, but I start bleeding out of my ear. So I don't remember which year it was, but I started bleeding out of my ear, and that relieved the pressure in my brain. So they're working on me, so I came back. But I don't have no recollection of that NDE or anything. And I was in the hospital. When I got to the hospital, doctors told my mother I would never, when I woke up, because I was in a coma for a while, that my brain injury was so severe that I wouldn't be the same, like not to expect the same son she had before the accident. Funny thing about that was, well, when I woke up, I didn't recognize my parents. I didn't know who they were. But funny thing about that was when I went home and I went back to school, uh, all I wanted to do was read and gain knowledge, and but I wanted to read like as much as I could. That was the funny thing about that. I had like this like I belonged to the book club. So, in school. I think I was 7 years old. I was in second grade. So I belonged to the book club, and I would order all these books. My mother would pay for them, and I would stay up like when I got home from school all night reading books. My mother had to come in, go to bed, but I wanted to read. And I would read, and I was like number one in class, reading. That's all I wanted to do was read, and that thirst for knowledge followed me all through school. Where when I got to fifth grade, teacher went to the house. He said, "Miss Milazzo, we want to skip him, sixth grade." So, she said no because she thought I was too young to go into junior high school. She want, well, wait, yeah, she thought I was too young. So I do sixth grade, and I'm really, I guess, intelligent because when I got into this class called 7SP, where you do seventh and eighth grade in 1 year, and you go straight to ninth grade. So I did that. I went to ninth. I did good. I went to ninth grade, and then I graduated high school when I was 15. Long story short, you know. So, okay. Fast forward that I have no recollection of an NDE. I get fast forward to when I'm 17. Uh, my grandfather's dying of emphysema, and my aunt had taken him out of the hospital into her house, her and my grandmother. So he would die at home, comfortable. So he was upstairs in the den on the couch, and we get a call. My mother gets a call at 1 o'clock in the morning that he's not going to make it, from her sister, that he's not going to make it through the night. So she wakes me up, and of course I say, yeah, let's go. And we drive over there, across the bridge, because we lived in Brooklyn. We get there, we go upstairs to the den where he is. My uncle, my grandmother, my grandfather's on the couch, and my uncle and my grandfather left the room. So it was just me, my mother, and my grandfather. My mother sat on the couch. I don't remember what she was talking to him at first. I sat on the chair across the room, but it was a small room. I was like 5, 6 feet away from him, and I'm looking at him. So I hear him say to my mother, "Rosalie, I'm so tired." And my mother says to him, "Rest, Daddy." And as soon as she says that, his mouth dropped open. He passed. But when he passed, I seen a mist come out of his body, actually. And there was a window behind him, and it flew right out the window. And I was in shock. I was like, what did I just see? So I asked my mother, I said, "Ma, did you see that?" And she said, "What, Frankie boy?" And I didn't say anything because I didn't think she would believe me. So I didn't, and her father just passed. I didn't want to say anything. Okay, fast forward to when I was 21, 4 years later. I'm working in Manhattan for a messenger service downtown Manhattan, where we are servicing mainly paper companies throughout Lower Manhattan that get unbinded paper and ship them out to the magazine companies to be binded. They get the paper first. We transport it to the magazine companies, and they bind it. So that's what I was doing. I just bought a 1983 Dodge van, so it was brand new. I only had it 3 months, and so I get a call, a job to go to Lake Success, which is above Queens in New York. And I go, I make the delivery, everything's fine. I make the delivery, no problem. Excuse me, Peg. And I'm coming.
24?
Excuse me?
How did you say, how old? 24? I didn't catch
No,
it.
21.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 21. It was 4 years after the experience with my grandfather.
Okay.
So I'm coming back home, and I'm on the Long Island Expressway. I'm in Queens at the time, and there was a part of the roadway, the highway, that was just newly paved. It was the dividers were new, the sewers were new, the roadway was new. But I hit a sewer that I guess a machine went over it and crushed the cover up against the divider, so there was a hole there. So when I ran over it, and I'm doing 70, 75 miles an hour, I'm 21. So I want to get back to work. I want to get more work. I want to get back to Manhattan. So I come across it, and my wheel goes in the hole. It rips my wheel off. My van smashes right into the divider. The whole front of and now when it smashed into the divider, the whole front of the van went underneath the chassis. That was from the impact. The van rolled the divider for about a good 20 feet before it rolled over. And I had a hand truck, and now I hit my face on the steering wheel. My leg got crushed underneath underneath the dashboard, my left leg. I had a hand truck and dolly in the back. They came forward, hit me in the back of the head, gave me, big holes in the back of my head. My whole face was split wide open from the bridge of my nose all the way down. My upper lip was split in half. My teeth were knocked out. So like I'm out of it. And the only way they can get me out when emergency services came was through the windshield. They had to break the windshield and take me out that way. So I get to the hospital, I'm in a coma, and I guess I guess I died because I wake up, I'm in this room, this dark room, and I recognize the room I'm in. And I'm in front of a jukebox, an old Wurlitzer jukebox. And I'm standing there and I look down and there's like fog covering my feet. So I'm saying, what's going? And I don't feel no. I'm peaceful. I don't feel no pain. I don't remember the accident. Like I don't know what I'm doing there. And I'm saying to myself, where am I? Like, what's going on here? But I recognize the back of the room because when I was a kid, uh, like 15, we used to hang out in the corner in Brooklyn. I mean, that's what the kids do. All the kids that hung out together, went to school together, hung out at night on corners. I mean, we weren't doing anything wrong. We were young kids. That's what we got. But there was a bar across the street. The owners of the bar, one with the called us over and said, "We have a back room. Like it was part of the bar." They said, and there was a jukebox back there, a pinball machine, a shuffleboard machine. They said you could come in the back and stay warm. You just can't drink, but you just could stay here. It was an older couple that owned the bar, so it was it was nice. So that's where I was. That's the room I woke up in, and I'm saying, where am I? Like, what's going on? You know, I'm like, why am I here? It was pitch dark. Uh, The only light was from the jukebox, and like I said, it wasn't the jukebox that God knows how much money I threw in at the bar. It was an old road to jukebox. So and then I feel a hand come around, an arm come around my shoulder. So I look to my left, and it's my grandfather. And before I could say anything to him, like, what am I doing here, Grandpa, or anything, he says to me, uh, Frankie boy, it's not your time. You got to go back. We're not ready for you yet. And it was more that he was speaking to me, like his mouth didn't move. So it was more telepathic. And and when he said those words to me, next thing I know, I'm waking up in the hospital, Queens Elmhurst Hospital. Uh, there was a nurse. I was on a sheepskin sheet, I guess, so I wouldn't get bed sores. I don't remember how many days I was in the coma before I died, but she had me, they had me sitting up and she had me leaning forward and she was washing my back with alcohol because they were washing my body, getting ready to transport me to the morgue. So when I woke up and I said, I guess I mumbled or whatever, she started screaming, he's awake, he's awake. And she got so scared that she sat me down and like ran away. And this other nurse came to me and said to me, you died. We were getting ready to transport you to the morgue, you know. And I said, what happened? Like, where am I? And she said, you were in a bad car accident. You're in Queens Elmhurst Hospital. And she was asking me how I feel. And I felt so peaceful. It's like my body was all bent. First thing I did when I woke up without even looking, because I couldn't feel my leg, was reach down to feel for my leg. And I felt the cast and I said, okay, my leg is there. And so she's talking to me, asking me how I feel and stuff. And I'm touching my face because I can feel my face, all busted up. And I said to her, do you have a mirror? A makeup mirror. Like back in the day, they had those round makeup mirrors. And she said to me, Frank, you don't want to see your face because, you're all busted up. You got all stitches going down the center of your nose, on your lip. I said, no, really, please, can you get a mirror? So she went and got the mirror. And now I'm peaceful. I'm calm. I'm not really feeling any pain. And they didn't give me, well, maybe they did. No, they didn't give me anything for the pain because I had passed. But I'm peaceful. I don't feel anything. And she gets the mirror, and I look at my face, and I see my nose. Now, I'm Italian. So my nose was reconstructed. So I had like a big nose when I was younger. So I look in the mirror and I see my face and I start laughing. I said, nah, there's nothing wrong with my nose. It's always been that big. And we start laughing, me and her. And she goes, I can't believe you're making jokes. I said, what am I going to do? It is what it is. So, you know, the room I was in, there was nobody there, you know, because she told me you had passed. So this is like where they bring you, wash you, and transport you to the morgue. So, okay, so now they bring me up to the room. Like, oh, they give me a shot of morphine. And and I got so sick, I started throwing my guts up. I said, well, because I told them I was in pain, my leg was hurting, my face, and so they give me a shot of more, and I start throwing up. And I said, "What did you just give me?" She goes, "We only gave you a quarter gram." I said, "I don't do drugs. You can't get." So I guess they weren't, used to that reaction, because it was Queens, so it's a bit, it's like a bad area of Brooklyn. Anyway, they bring me upstairs. Now I must have passed out again because I woke up in the room and my aunts were there, my mother's three sisters, one of my uncles, and my mother. So I say to them when I wake up, first thing I said, right off the bat, first words out of my mouth was, I seen Grandpa, he sent me back. And my uncle says to me, like, nah, you were dreaming. No, I know what I saw. I was dead. How was I dreaming? What are you telling me? So I never mentioned it again. I never mentioned it to anybody again, really, until, I mean, no, I told it, I guess I told a few people, but I really never talked about it because I didn't want anybody to think I was crazy, but I know what I saw. I know I saw my grandfather. I know my grandfather sent me back. I was dead. How could I be dreaming? So, and then I met this woman on Facebook who was a friend of mine, but I screwed that up as usual. Anyway, she had an NDE, and she wrote a book about it. And she told me about the site. We started talking, we became friends. And I told her about we started talking. And the funny thing about that was I friended her on Facebook, right? And I post a lot about God because I'm very spiritual. I'm not a fanatic. I don't push my religion on anybody. That's not my job for you to believe what I believe. I believe what I believe. That's for me. I post about God to show him my gratitude for what he's done for me throughout life and the battles he's walked me through and helped me get over, because I always believe that. I'm a strong, I when I go to church, I go when there's no mess because I don't need a man telling me how to connect to God. I know how to connect to God. So I go when the church is empty and I speak to him. But I pray every night. Anyway, getting back to the story. So I see this girl, she accepted my friend request and I see that she's liking all my posts, about God. And I get a lot of likes. I got a lot of friends that believe. But I'm drawn to her. I'm like, who is this woman? And I'm not going to mention her name. I'm like, who is this woman? Like, why? Out of the 25 people that are liking my post, why am I drawn to her? You know. But I don't go into women's DMs. I don't do that. I know a lot of guys do that on Facebook. I'm not one of them. And then one day she messages me to ask me a question. I'm like, look at this. So we start talking and, we're talking about spirituality and stuff. And then she shows me her book. And I said, wow, that's you? Because I've seen her on YouTube sharing her story about she had an out-of-body experience, NDE. I said, I know about you. So we start talking and I tell her about my experience. So she tells me about the site. I go on the site. I'm like, I was hesitant to share my story, but I did one night, and then Jeff contacted me, so I shared it on Jeff's podcast, and it got 15,000 views on YouTube. As far as my spirituality after that experience, uh, it was very strong. But the funny thing about that is, lately, like because I always ask God, like, why did you bring me back? What do you want me to do? You know. Uh, and over the last 2 years, I've had some real bad medical uh, uh, problems. Uh, I had bleeding ulcers in my stomach. My grandmother died of stomach cancer, And right after my mother's gone, she's gonna be 5 years in July. I was with her, but I'm not gonna talk about that. But I was with her when she died. I was holding her hand, and like a year later, and I don't think it has anything to do with it. Uh, I started getting really bad ulcers in my stomach, and I mean really bad that I would wake up throwing up blood and have to go to the hospital, and I had to get blood transfusions. And I mean, this went on for like 2 years till they told me, we got to take out part of your stomach. It's so bad. So they did, and everything was fine. And a few months later, it started again. And they told me we got to take more of your stomach out. And the end result was they had to take my whole stomach out. So I don't have a stomach. My esophagus, I had a specialist from, I was living in Connecticut at the time, but they had brought in a specialist oncologist from New York to do the operation, and he explained it to me. And I told him, look, if you're going to give me a bag, you can forget it. I'll deal, like with. And he goes, you'll die, you know. So I said, okay. So he connected my esophagus right to my small intestine, and I mean, I could eat anything. I used to be 230 pounds, and I was in the it was an 8-hour operation, and I was in the hospital for a month after that. And I just got to mention this because this was like on the hospital that they did this to me. I have 25 years clean and sober, but when I was in the hospital, they were shooting me up with the Lord every 4 hours, and they did it to the last day I left. So when I went home, I was like, no, not me. I am not getting. And so I went through withdrawal for 3 days, laid in bed, sick as a dog, because I wasn't, picking up drugs again. That wasn't happening. All right, so I had my stomach removed, and you're not going to believe this, but before I had my stomach removed, I fell down the stairs. Now, this is part of the story. This is what I think was God's plan for me. How he's always with me. Uh, when I lived in Connecticut, I was getting weak in my faith and even in my mind, like I was just getting weak. So I'm walking up steps in the house that I've walked up a million times, and I miss the top step, and I fall backwards, and I fall on my shoulder. I break my shoulder. And I break it so bad that, the end result was it had to be replaced with a titanium shoulder. So the story is like all these things, like when they were happening to me, I never blamed God, said, oh, why is this happening to me? Like, what are you doing? No, I never said that. I always said, okay, this is part of your plan, so uh, I'll follow it, you know. And when I broke my shoulder, doctors in Connecticut left me crippled for 10 months. They put a plate and 10 screws in, came loose 2 weeks later. They had to take it out. So, and then they were telling me they didn't know what to do. And it was my right arm, so I had to teach myself how to do everything with my left arm. And I think it was all God's plan for me to make me stronger in my spirit, in my faith, like, and in myself, in my mind, like to make my mind say, okay, you got to do this now. This is up to you. No one's going to do this for you. Like if you don't step up your game and do what you got to do to get stronger, no one's going to do for you. Because what I was thinking today? Everybody thinks that like when someone dies or when you get sick, it's God's fault. No, it's not God's fault. It's a human body. It's a shell. It's only like a temporary thing to be here on earth. The human body is a shell. It's going to get sick. You might get a disease. Something might happen. It's not God's fault. He don't control that. He controls your spirit. He's with you. He'll take you through your battles. He'll walk you through the storm. But it's not his fault. He's got nothing to do with that. People blame him. Why are you blaming him? Maybe you did something in life that made your body act that way. It's not his fault. So I was thinking about that today, like when you asked me to be on the podcast. I wanted to say that. Me falling, breaking my arm, getting my stomach taken out. No, that's not his fault. But maybe that's his way of making you stronger in your faith, to pray to him and say, help me, and he'll help you. He'll walk you through. He'll never leave you alone. On days you feel like he left you alone, he's actually carrying you, when you feel alone. But he's always with you, and that's what I believe.
Now, did you feel differently? Like, when you was little, you started wanting to read and things like that. Did you
I've
have any
started to read.
changes?
I started to read. I went to Catholic school, so I was taught to be, close to God from an early age. You know, uh, I started to read. Uh, uh, I was always so smart in school. Teachers used to come to the house, talk to my mother. They wanted to skip me. She wouldn't allow it because I was too young. My mother was, old school Italian, very protective. So she felt I was too young. She wouldn't allow it. Uh,
I mean, after the second NDE.
After the second NDE, I, I, my spirituality grew. My ability to adapt. I could sense things happening before they happen. Like I'd say something to somebody, and they say, "I was just thinking about it. How'd you know that?" And I'll say, "I don't know." And like, or I'll call somebody and say, I need a haircut, and they'll say, "I'm watching something about a haircut on TV right now. What are you talking about?" You know, They're like I found these images on my phone, and I sent them to that woman that had the NDE, and she said, "Frank, I'm watching something about ghosts. I'm on TV right now. What's with you?" And she goes, "You're scary," she told me. I said, "I don't know. I don't know how I'm able to sense these things and do these things. So yeah, and I also found that I was able to my ability to do things was like I worked construction, and I started as a runner, running errands and stuff. So I'm on a job site in Staten Island. It was the dump. We're clearing the dump, and I was close to the owner. He used to introduce me as his nephew to everybody. But anyway, I'm on the site one day, and he goes, "Frank, can you operate that machine?" I had no clue. I didn't know. I said, "Yeah, sure." I got on the machine. I seen what did what. Long story short, before I knew it, I was doing snow removal all over Brooklyn in a machine. Who taught me how to use a machine? I had no clue, but I was doing it. And then one day he asked me, "Can you drive that truck?" It was an 18-wheeler dump truck. Now, I used to sit in the truck with a friend of mine that passed me, rest in peace. He owned two tractor trailers, but he parked them in my boss's yard. He had a big yard. So I used to, matter of fact, he got me the job at the construction company. I used to sit with him because I always loved tractor trailers. So I used to sit in the passenger side and watch him throw the gears. So when my boss Ronnie asked me, "Can you drive that truck?" I was like, "Yeah, I could drive that truck." I had no clue. I got in it before I drove to a job site. I took the dirt back to the yard. I didn't know how to drive a truck. Who taught me that? So my ability to like teach myself things was so sharp, and like, who gave me that ability? You know, God gave me that ability. You know,
No,
but
was
I
there,
could. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
No, I could. It's like I could sense things happening before they happen. You know, it's funny. It's strange. It scares me sometimes. I, I'm sitting on the couch. I was watching Jeff's. I'm sitting in a dark room on the couch inside. 'Cause I'm at my brother's house now. I'm recuperating from my shoulder surgery. So I'm sitting on the couch. I'm watching the video, Jeff's video. It's like 3 in the morning. All of a sudden, the TV pops on. I'm nowhere near the remote. Nowhere. And I'm like, "Who turned that TV on? That's scary. That scared me." And I couldn't find the remote. I couldn't find the remote. It was nowhere near me. So my brother comes down in the morning. He goes, "Frank, why's the TV on?" So I told him. He goes, "You're probably leaning on the remote." We searched the couch. The remote was underneath the coffee table. So I had no way to touch the remote. So I don't know. Strange things like that be happening.
Now, you wanted to leave a message for your friend at the end of
I did.
this?
I did. My friend Christine, I'm not going to mention her last name, is mourning the loss of her son. It was her oldest son. He was 27 years old. I'm not going to share the way he died, but he passed away. And she is just being shattered by grief. And what I want to tell her is, Christine, Michael is with you. He's always with you, and I died. I know it's peaceful. I know he's at peace. That's not comforting to her. Listen, I know whatever I say is not, how do you comfort someone that lost a child? That's like the greatest grief but I just want to tell him Michael is with you. He's always with you. When you're sleeping, he's watching you. Uh, I'm not going to say he's in a better place. I hate when people say that, because, well, what are you telling me? If he was in a better place, he'd be here. He'd be here with me right now. That's what she must be thinking when people say that. So I'm not going to say that. I just want to tell her, like, hold on to the memories you have as your son. You must have good memories. Think about that. Hold on to those memories. Like she shares videos of him and pictures of him, so I know she has good memories of him. So I just want to say, Christine, hold on to those memories, and I hope you find peace. And I hope somehow you find some peace. That's all I want to say.
Well, thank
All
you.
right.
Was there anything else you wanted to add?
I'm good, Peg. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
All right. All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye.